together this, I think, very important historical forum. And I agree with the philosopher George Santayana, who said those who do not understand history are condemned to repeat it. Condemned to repeat it. I also want to, even though it's been said, I think it's important to underline our gratitude to the Korea Foundation for Advanced Studies, as well as to your co-host, Peking University, Beijing Municipal Commission of Education, for truly outstanding preparations of this session. So I would like to recall the situation we faced in 1994 and to understand where we are today in the context of that change. Think about whether we're better off or worse off, and think about what implications that has for our policy. To summarize, in 1994, by virtue of the agreed framework, the North Korean plutonium program was stopped cold. We had 8,000 spent fuel rods under seal, under camera, with on-site inspections. As you just heard from Ambassador Gallucci, we had the abatement of construction of the two larger plants. We had the sealing off of the reprocessing facilities. We had continuing problems, to be sure. The unresolved questions of the suspect sites. And we had the problem that you heard described very clearly by Bob Gallucci in terms of the cheating. But we also had, and I think sometimes people forget this, and Ambassador Choi reminded us in terms of Quito, there was contemplated a different form of a relationship between North Korea and the outside world, one that would have allowed other issues such as the missing Americans from the conflict to be resolved, the abductees to be resolved from the Japanese perspective, human rights issues, missiles, many other issues could have been resolved, but the fact is that they did cheat, and we did catch them. Now, when you come to that point, you have three choices. Terminate the agreement, accept the status quo, or negotiate. Now, accepting the status quo was unacceptable. In the event, we, the United States, terminated the heavy fuel oil shipments, and North Korea took that opportunity to break the agreement and to leave the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, who's better off? We lost sight of the 8,000 spent fuel rods. That's like 35 to 40 kilograms of plutonium. Where is that plutonium now? We don't know. They tested nuclear weapons twice, and we were able to get into some kind of negotiations which produced some kind of agreement, at least in September 2005, to go back to denuclearization. But the fact of the matter is, we are stuck. But here's the salient difference. When we were at a difficult negotiating stalemate in 1993-94, the North Korean program was frozen. And so every day that they did not create new plutonium, we were better off. That was one more day without new plutonium. Now, there's no freeze. There's no NPT. There's no safeguards. So every day we're worse off. Every day they become more capable. Every day, unfortunately, people may tend to forget that we're actually in a far more dangerous situation. And so we come to these objectives that you've heard my colleagues describe quite well. My concern is that in this situation, people get confused what is a mechanism and what is an objective. Six-party talks are not an objective. They're not an objective. I don't care if you have 6, 26, 15, 2, or 1. You can't have 1. The fact is, the issue is North Korean nuclear weapons. And by focusing on the form instead of the outcome, I think we've lost our way, frankly. And I think we need to do something about that, because I do believe the situation is urgent and gets worse. And I believe that is why the importance of the forum that you have organized here in China is so important, because I believe that China does have a pivotal role to play in addressing this issue. I believe, and I've been saying, and our book reports this, and we're with people who would know the underlying facts, and please correct us if we're wrong, I believe that China's role in 1994 was very important to getting North Korea to agree to the agreed framework. I believe that it was clear that North Korea could not rely on absolute protection from China if Chapter 7 sanctions had been imposed in June of 1994. And so that brings us to the question, and I think very aptly described three objectives: no nuclear weapons, no war, and political stability in the peninsula. I think we have to understand that these three are connected. And I'd like to remind everybody that at the time of the military buildup, which was a very substantial buildup in June 1994 that the United States engaged in, Secretary of Defense William Perry said, "There is no course without risk." But the riskier course would not, there were people who were worried that the military buildup would provoke war. But he recommended, and I think the President agreed, that it was riskier not to build up our military forces because then North Korea might mistake our resolve. And that is, in fact, the riskier course. And I would argue that today, the riskier course is actually the one that might be considered more conservative, more cautious, that by favoring stability, in fact, we provoke North Korea to continue unchecked its nuclear ambitions. And left unchecked, those ambitions one day will bring on a crisis far graver than the one that we face today. So in that way, I think the more cautious approach of being more conciliatory and favoring political solution instead of a more robust approach that shows North Korea it must pay a penalty for continuing to flout international law. I think the lesson is we need to take a more urgent approach to this, and I believe the same is true for Iran, and I believe in this case as well, the role of China is pivotal. And the final point to be made here is if, in fact, as an international community, we are unable to prevent the unchecked proliferation of nuclear weapons in North Korea and Iran, then I think that will be deeply destabilizing to those regions and to the world. That's why I think that this forum you've organized is so important. That's why I think it's important for us to remember the lessons of 1994. That's why I think you've assembled exactly the right combination of people from different governments to bring those varied perspectives to bear. And that's why I think that, again, you are to be commended for convening this very important discussion on, I'm just at 7 minutes, on a very important topic that I hope will receive further illumination from the discussion that we're about to have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel, for